Hello and welcome to Radiance Revealed, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jen Haley. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, fitness enthusiast, nutrition expert, and global explorer that over the years has uncovered that your skin is a true representation of your internal health. Each week, we will chat with leading health, wellness, and even spiritual experts who will reveal secrets to true health and vitality. My goal is to help you change small habits to give you the power to create a more balanced, aligned, and elevated version of yourself. Now let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Radiance Revealed podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jen Haley. And on this week's episode, I have a colleague of mine, another board-certified dermatologist, an expert in all things skin, hair, and nails, Dr. Noreen Galaria. She has been a board-certified dermatologist for about 20 years now, and she has created this beautiful, beautiful supplement line, Inner Glow Vitamins. And you know, I don't often recommend specific products on this website because I want to be agnostic and recommend only ingredients, but her products are very unique, very special, very well curated. And this is why I'm recommending them wholeheartedly, without any conflict of interest. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. We're going to go a deep dive into why she specifically curated certain ingredients that she has in these supplements and how to use them, as well as providing a discount code for you to purchase them. So hope you enjoy it. Keep sending me your DMs and your requests on Instagram at Dr. Jen Haley. You can also hit me up on YouTube. I'm becoming more active there, and I'm here for you. So enjoy this episode. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Noreen Galaria. She is the founder of Inner Glow Supplements, and I wanted to have her on the show. As you all know, in this podcast, I don't often promote individual products, but this is one that I do feel that stands out and we need to discuss. And Dr. Galaria, as I mentioned in the introduction, is a board-certified dermatologist. She's one of my colleagues, very highly respected dermatologist who created some skincare products that can help you achieve the glow that you want, that we all want from within. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. I think since May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, it's actually a perfect month for us to talk about this.
Exactly. I know we've been talking about having this discussion for quite a while, and I think all of the stars aligned in divine timing in May when everybody's getting outside in the sun, and we need the sun. It's our vital energy source, but we also want to use it wisely, right? So right. I know you created a number of products. I want to start with, for those of you on YouTube, I use this. My kids use this. It comes in a gummy form, which is great to get into teenage boys. It's called Inner Glow Soul Defense. And I guess I want to understand the why behind it. Like what prompted you to create a product like this, and what makes this product special to you?
Yeah, sure. So, we have what we call our defense line, which has two products. It has Age Defense, which is a product that has polypodium, which we'll talk about, I think, probably a little more in a bit, with a whole bunch of other antioxidants. And then we've got this gummy, which is called Soul Defense. And I think when I really started thinking about this was probably about a decade ago, maybe more now. I was teaching at the University of Utah. And, a little known fact about Utah is actually Utah is the state with the number one amount of skin cancer in America. And so I was looking around and I was like, gosh, like it's a lot when people come in, they're 30 and they're having their first precancer or their first skin cancer diagnosis. And it just didn't seem like enough to be able to say, well, I'm sorry you didn't wear sunscreen before the age of 18, but, there's not much we can do, and please wear some sunscreen and, put a hat on. And so I've always really loved this, like combining allopathic medicine with naturopathic. I feel like it's a really important place for us to kind of be in when we're trying to treat something chronic. So I just started researching all of the products and ingredients that were out there that could really help protect us from the sun from the inside. And I came up with this line. The age defense was the first one we came up with because a lot of these antioxidants act synergistically. And then the gummy, which has become kind of a real hit, I have to say, amongst, our derm and plastics colleagues, that one was really born of a need for compliance. So it's great to put anything you want into a tablet, but if nobody takes it, who is younger or maybe who's a male or even people who can't swallow tablets, you're not reaching the entire population that you want. And so, really, I wanted to work to create a gummy that I could give to my own kids when they were on swim team or if a kid was playing soccer. I wanted something that they could take as an enhancement to their, external sun protection.
Yeah, I love that. So, gosh, there's so many points you hit on here. I think the first point is I love how it's empower. We want to empower people. Like instead of saying, "Oh, you have all this sun damage, you're doomed to get cancer, and there's nothing reversible." Like there's hope. You can start doing things yourself to reduce the damage you've had from progressing into something that may be a cancer. And I've lived a lot of places, and it's fascinating to me because I've lived in Hawaii at sea level where people are outside all the time. And I've lived in Colorado and Utah, and the sun is very different at elevation. What is it? Like you get an extra 7% every 1,000 feet in elevation. And I think the UVR, I mean, the UVA and the more radiate, like the higher radiation causes more of those coarse wrinkles on the face as opposed to
Yes.
browns. Did you notice that as well?
Yes, I did. And the wrinkling was very deep in people
Yeah.
who had spent their life in Utah. And I think also it's a blessing and a curse to be in a place where you can ski in the winter and then hike and be outdoors all summer long, right? So I think that people in Utah are really getting year-round exposure in addition to kind of that higher altitude UVA.
It's tricky because they're not getting enough to make vitamin D from the UVB rays, but the chronically exposed areas like the face, the neck, and the back of the hands, and even the chest, those areas are getting slammed with so much sun damage at elevation. So, it's hard to get people to use sunscreen daily when they're not even getting sun and they're feeling deficient, and we're constantly
Right.
telling people to do that. But now what you're also teaching is to do something internally. Like what can we do internally to help our own body's natural defenses from the harmful rays of the sun, the radiation, without necessarily hiding away in a cave and not enjoying your life, right?
Absolutely. And I always say, like, this is a product that is meant to let you enjoy the sun, right? Because I think people think when they come see me as a dermatologist, I'm going to be like, okay, put yourself in a bubble, no more sun. And that's just not feasible for anybody. And so I think as dermatologists, we need to teach people about sunscreen and hats and glasses. But, I really wanted to give them something that would be an additional tool in their armamentarium so they could enjoy the sun without, like there's patients that get stressed about going in the sun. And I just really want to give people a tool that helps them be in the sun and, kind of be able to enjoy it a little more than maybe they have been able to because of their skin cancers.
Right. So I'm a big fan of having a polyphenol rich diet, like a Mediterranean diet. Colorful fruits
Yes,
and vegetables will protect us from the inside out. And I want to talk about the actual ingredients in your product. You mentioned polypodium leucotomus, and that's a long word that I don't expect anyone to repeat, but it's a fern block extract, correct?
that's right.
Okay, so can you talk about the science behind it and how you curated this recipe, this formula for your skin products?
Sure. So, when we're looking at polypodium, it's a fern found in South America, Spain, many places in the world, but it's been used. And I think this is really important for, people to know. It's been used by South American tribes for thousands of years. And so when people say, well, how do I know? Is it safe? People in South America were brewing this as a tea and drinking it for sun protection and photo aging benefit thousands of years ago. And so, as a physician, we want the studies. And there really are now a lot of studies, not just animal studies, but hundreds and hundreds of human studies that show that it truly does work to help protect us from the sun. And I think, there's three things that we talk about as dermatologists that the sun really does that we are trying to prevent. So the first is sunburn, of course. The second is photoaging. And we know the sun is responsible for 80% of our photoaging. And then the third is cancer. So what's really amazing about polypodium is that polypodium, the leaf specifically, has properties that actually improve all three. And so, when we're looking at something that is a really great internal sun protectant, polypodium actually really fits the bill very well.
So there's a number of supplements out there, many of which I've recommended in the past containing polypodium. Is there something that people should look for when they're looking for a supplement containing polypodium? Like, should it state leaf extract? Should it have a certain um, milligrams? What do they look for in order to know that they're getting a high quality supplement? Because we know with supplements, they're not third party tested all the time, and you're not always getting what the bottle states. So, how does someone be a smart consumer when looking for a product like this?
Yeah, I think this is really important because, if you type in polypodium on Amazon, for example, today, you'll come up with no less than 80 or 90 options. And so when you're choosing a polypodium, make sure it has over 240 milligrams. That's an important number. We know we can safely take up to 1,000 milligrams or more a day, but 240 is really where you should be starting. And I do really think that although the entire plant is beneficial, the leaf has much more of what we're looking for when we're looking for something that is a good sun protectant. And so look for leaf extract. And, there's a lot of different forms that have never been tested. So polypodium, that specific fern comes in a lot of varieties, just like if you imagine, like, we say cactus, but there's so many different kinds. And so the polypodium with the leucotomos word at the end is an important word for people to look for, because that version is the version that all the testing has been done on.
And as far as addressing burns, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't really, with the FDA requirements, we can't really say it's equal to an SPF of blah, 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 right? But like, what are you
Yeah.
finding? Because I know on your website you have, and also your Instagram, which is great. It's a great Instagram. You have some educational, clinical studies on there showing how it helps with hyperpigmentation and sunburn reactions to, is it just UVB or are you looking at UVA? Like, how are we testing for age prevention or how are we testing for cancer prevention with this particular molecule? Do we have that data?
We do. What we don't have is probably visible light. So there's some very early evidence that even the light coming off of our computers and our cell phones, that polypodium probably protects against that as well. When it comes to UVA, which let's think of that as more kind of chronic aging and wrinkles, and UVB for sunburn, there is very good evidence that polypodium is helpful for both. And, we have three ongoing studies just for our specific product. And then there's a whole bunch of other studies that are available. And, what is really happening is that polypodium is a very potent antioxidant, but also a very potent anti-inflammatory. So we know that what it does when it comes to sunburn is it stops kind of that free radical damage that we talk about that will go on to cause redness and burns. And that we've tested a lot because it's so easy to test, right? You test what somebody's, how long it takes someone to sunburn with kind of UVB light. And then the next day you give them the Inner Glow gummies, for example, or the tablet, and then you test them to see, does it take longer for them to sunburn? And in many, many studies that we're doing, the answer is yes, absolutely. It takes them longer to sunburn. And so SPF is an external thing. We talk about this all the time. Like we're looking for an SPF 30 sunscreen. What does polypodium really give us? Maybe 8 to 10 if I'm trying to make it equal, but it's not really equal. And in some ways, it's not a good measure because unlike sunscreen, polypodium also is stopping the breakdown of our collagen, and it's actually improving, it's blocking something called matrix metalloproteinases, which will actually help us to stabilize our elastin and stimulate our collagen. So although maybe we can't exactly equate it to an SPF, I do think that there's additional internal benefits we also can't describe.
Yeah, that's really great. It's super interesting because, everybody wants the one answer, but everything's
Yeah.
multifactorial, and it's not like just putting sunscreen on is going to help protect you from sun damage because there's other factors going on inside the body. So Dr. Galaria mentioned the matrix metalloproteinases, which are MMPs. And the way that I best can understand those or give those as an example is when somebody has really bad acne and it causes a lot of inflammation and redness, and then it goes away and it leaves a little bit of a divot in the skin. That's the MMPs that are breaking down the collagen in the skin. And that's happening all the time. That's why when you're 50, you look different than when you're 30 because the collagen is becoming disorganized. So what she's saying is that this polypodium leukotomas in the right dosage, in the right form, can help prevent that breakdown in addition to preventing sun damage and the external factors in our environment that uh, accelerate that breakdown, which I think is really great. I love the power of being able to do other things from other angles. And to your point of the visible spectrum, I struggle with melasma. I'm half Spanish and I'm always dealing with hyperpigmentation. And I find that there have been studies with polypodium
Yes.
leukotomas on melasma and helping to stabilize that hyperpigmentation. And that's just another way of using it, I find. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. And so definitely it shows benefit in melasma. I will usually say to my melasma patients, hey, if you can do the tablet, because that also has something called pycnogenol in it, which is a pine bark from France. And that has really also been shown very synergistically to improve melasma in patients when it's used along with polypodium. But if you're someone who just wants to take the gummy, or it's, you're at the beach and you want that additional layer, then I think the gummy alone is also giving you benefit.
Yeah, I love pycnogenol. I spent some time in Helsinki and they give you pine bark extract when you're in the saunas. And there's also studies on
Wow.
pycnogenol with like telangiectasias or like varicose veins, like the small little telangiectasias you get on the
Yes.
legs. So like as a woman, we want to, help with all
We
of
want
these
the
things.
benefit. We want the benefit. It's true. And I think the other thing we should just kind of mention here, because we talk about polypodium and the gummies and can you take them with kids? And I do want to mention that there are a lot of studies out there on polypodium for eczema, actually. And what they show is that people who take polypodium, kids over the age of 2, who are taking it in a dose that's twice the dose of what's in our gummies. So we know our gummies, are very, very safe for anyone over the age of 2 or 3 because people have used, 480 milligrams to as a test in kids with eczema. And what it does do is not only does it improve kids' eczema, but it really improves their itching and they can decrease their antihistamine, so things like Claritin. So we know, I just kind of want to point out when it's safe in children, because I do think that was one of the purposes of me making the gummy was for my own kids to be able to take it safely, but also kids who suffer from things like sun allergies or eczema. Often, I see a lot of derms now in the pediatric world using it for that.
That's really new to me. That's very new to me because I am part of the integrated dermatology group. And Peter Leo, he's always talking about, different alternative treatments for atopic dermatitis. And I haven't heard about this. Is it a skin barrier? Does it improve skin barrier? Or do you know the mechanism of action? It's just
You
highly.
know, I don't know if it improves the skin barrier. I do know that it is turning down mast cell production. And I think that, there's a paper. I'll forward it to you after our talk, but I think it does go into the science behind it specifically for eczema a lot more. I kind of have really focused, my stuff on the science behind, sun protection.
That's great, though. I mean, that's a really beautiful benefit, whether it's balancing the immune system. There's so many things with eczema we don't even understand, but the way I kind of explain it to people is it's usually a break in the skin barrier and then an allergy in the skin. So the immune
Yes.
system, we want to balance it. We don't ever want to make it too strong or too weak. Our body needs to be in homeostasis all the time to work optimally. Okay, so you mentioned the polypodium. So can we talk about the other supplements you have and the thought process behind it and why you like curated and created these recipes? So you mentioned the pine bark extract, the pycnogenol, and the benefits of that. And what other ingredients do you have in them?
So let me kind of, take a step back even from that and just say, as physicians, we're used to everything being, tested, third party verified. Like we're looking for high quality stuff. And when because I've always had this interest in naturopathic medicine, when I started wanting to recommend stuff, people would come in and I would recommend the same thing. And the results were vastly different, right? Like depending on what they had bought. And so I started testing some of the stuff that came in. One of the first things I was testing was actually back in the day, omega 3s. And some of the stuff that was in those capsules was nowhere near fish oil. And, sometimes like canola oil, like it was just unbelievable what people were paying for. And so, really, what I set out to do was initially just to figure out what supplements I should be recommending for my own patients that were high quality. And as I kind of started going down this road, I was like, oh, I wish this and this was together. I wish we could have mixed these two ingredients. And I wish we could have done it and tested it in a way we test medicine. Like I wanted it to be made in the USA. I wanted it third party verified, non GMO. And so that's really what I was looking for when I was looking for a supplement. I didn't want to just kind of throw things together. I wanted to be able to source it. And so once I got, kind of that part figured out, then I looked at kind of the research that was out there on what is synergistic when you're looking at sun protection, for example, or what is synergistic, in hair care. And when it comes to kind of protecting our skin, there are some really tried and true, food benefits to protecting our skin, like you mentioned. So a high polyphenol diet, getting a lot of colorful fruits and vegetables in. But people aren't often able to do that on a daily basis. And so some of the other ingredients in our supplement are things like blueberries, green tea, both of which are highly proven to help the skin and also to decrease, to decrease tumor production through increasing something called P53. There's ginger, there's turmeric, there's cacao, there's resveratrol, 14 different antioxidants that all are, kind of when we looked at the studies, these were the ingredients that had the highest benefit to the skin. And so we work to combine them in, healthy doses and we put them into a tablet. And I will be the first to say, do I only take this tablet? No, I'm turning 50 this year. I'm not going to take just a tablet. I'm going to have a good diet. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to sleep well. But diets are by their nature inconsistent. And so we wanted to kind of put everything that you needed into one place for people.
Yeah, I love all of those ingredients because even the cacao will enhance blood flow for delivery of
Yes,
the ingredients.
exactly.
Because even if you're taking everything correctly and you don't have good blood flow, you're not going to get it to where it needs to be, right?
Right. And
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. And then we put, I should mention pre and probiotics in it. And the reason for that is we know the skin barrier is so critical and a strong skin barrier helps with sun protection.
How did you decide what probiotics to put in there? Because, we know that having a diversity of
Yes,
probiotics in the skin is the key, in skin that ages slower, in skin that does not have atopic dermatitis, there's more diversity of organisms, but I don't think we've quite nailed down like exactly like what the magic organism is. So is it about adding more of the good? Like how do you decide?
definitely. Yes, definitely. It is about balance. I will say that it's a very fluid thing, our microbiome. So I don't think that we know yet, it kind of in the scientific community, how much of each probiotic we need, or even truly what the best one is. We were looking for things like shelf stability and, how I wanted what I put in, I wanted people to get out. And that is not always easy when it comes to probiotics. They degenerate pretty quickly. And so we actually experimented with several. And there is a mix in ours of multiple probiotics. And I'm going to say that, the nice thing about being a physician and kind of doing the research is as research comes out, we will adjust, so if we find in 2 or 3 years there's a better one, I will absolutely incorporate it. It's kind of the benefit of being a small business.
Right. Yeah. And then the prebiotics. So the probiotics have food they could actually grow. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's really great. Okay. So if someone's taking this, are you suggesting that they take it before they go in the sun? Or like where my mind goes, what feels right for me is you take it every day and you get a buildup in your system so that you're always on the defense. And then maybe you double down if you're going to spend a day at the beach. Like, what's your recommendation in an ideal world, knowing that compliance is almost always not 100%, and that's okay.
Yes. Right. And so if I was going to choose, and this is what I do myself, I would recommend, especially if someone's really wanting to, be on top of photo aging, or maybe they're having, they've had their first precancer or their first skin cancer. I usually recommend them taking the age defense tablet every day. And the reason is that is the most complete. It's got the greatest number of antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. And then, like, I know if I'm going hiking or kayaking for the day, or if, my kids are really into surfing right now. So if, I take them surfing, we will top off with the gummies every couple of hours. So think of it like the same way you reapply sunscreen. So think of it as an additional layer of protection, and you can take it every 4 hours. And there kind of is no upper limit because it is just a fern. If I'm out for 6 or 8 hours, I might take the gummy 2 or 3 times just to kind of keep my sun protection as good as it can be.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I played around with it and I usually do two in the morning. So I'm
Yeah,
doing a double dose in the morning. And then I wear sunscreen on my face, my neck and my chest, and I live in Arizona, but I don't put sunscreen on the rest of my body. I usually have clothing, but I
yeah,
will take my jacket off and just wear a sports bra like for 15 minutes. And you can see like the color if you're on YouTube, you could see the color of my exposed skin and my regular skin at age
yes,
52 is exactly the same. Like
yeah.
from doing all of these things. So I prefer it almost over people just spraying gross stuff on their skin and it's not getting where it needs to go and you're getting a false sense of protection and loaded with chemicals, right?
Right. And I have been at the pool a million times where I see a teenager kind of spray their sunscreen and walk into it like it's perfume. Not perfume. You cannot put your spray on this way, right? And so, like for those, like I have a lot of, I have, I have 4 kids, so I have, teenagers now as well as middle schoolers, and gosh, to chase these kids around when they're at the beach to get that additional layer on. I mean, I'm lucky if they spray. So, um, but for some reason, the gummy is an easy sell. So, they'll be like, Mom, they're delicious. I'll take two. I'll take two again in 3 hours. I'll take two again in 4 hours. And so I really find that they do tan and burn less than they used to. And they're honestly no better with their sun protection as far as sunscreen goes. They've only just added this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. My kids were born in Hawaii and we were at the beach every day and it was easy to get clothes and hats on them then. But now they're
At a certain
17 and
age.
19. Yeah, 17 and 19, they just don't do it. As far as the gummy, let's just say the gummies for kids, right? I mean, for
Yeah.
me, I prefer the capsule and the age defense. For the kids with the gummies, what's the timeline? Like, just say they're going swimming at 8 a.m.,
1 hour. I
1 hour.
prefer 1 hour before to get maximum effect. So if my kids are swimming at 8, I'll give it to them with breakfast, for example, or whenever. It does start working within probably 20 or 30 minutes, but you're nowhere near full effect. And so if you can get it in an hour before, it's much better.
Okay.
And
And
then
then
I give it to my kids every 4 hours if we're in the sun.
perfect. Every four. Okay. So over the age of two, Totally fine to take pregnancy, breastfeeding, any data on that?
I hesitate to say take it in pregnancy and breastfeeding because I haven't done any studies on that. And, we're talking about a baby, right? But I don't think that there's any harm. But I will say we haven't done any studies. And in general, I know of many women who continue polypodium during their pregnancy. I just don't like to speak to it because I don't have any studies.
That's the thing. It's like we can't ethically do studies on pregnancy and
Exactly.
breastfeeding in women, but like we know through thousands of years that women have been taking it. So it's one of the things that I probably would do, but as a physician, I can't say like, oh yes, absolutely, because we don't have that data behind it. But it doesn't
Right.
interact with other medications. Like it's one of the safest molecules out there.
It's so easily tolerated. Like it's amazing to me that, tens of thousands of patients take it. And I think the only thing, and we haven't even had this with our product, but when you read all the polypodium studies, some people get bloating, which I think might be more of the carriers in some of them rather than even the fern itself. And so, yeah, if I was pregnant, I would take it if I was breastfeeding. But, the things I do myself are not necessarily the things I recommend because it's, where's my comfort level at?
Well, and if anything ever happens, like if you're pregnant and something ever happens, like you might blame yourself and say it was from something, even if it was irrelevant. That's where my mind always goes, because we always
Exactly.
think as mothers we're responsible for everything because that's just
I
our
know.
our way. Okay, anything on that because I want to touch on your hair supplement as well. I'm not as familiar with that and I want to learn more and educate people because hair affects everyone, women and men, especially women. I find that if there's hair loss, it's really the most disruptive thing to somebody's self-esteem. And
Yes.
there's not a single person out there that doesn't want thicker and more luxuriant hair. So do we need to cover anything else that we need to do about either the age defense or the inner glow soul defense? Anything we need to touch on with those that we haven't?
No, I not at all. But I think that one thing, with both of us being dermatologists, that's just important to mention is, neither of us are really recommending this instead of sunscreen, right? And so this is definitely an additional tool. And I do like to say that because I see a lot of influencers on Instagram kind of, taking the gummy and being like, I use this. It's my edible SPF. It's the only thing I use. That's not actually how I'm recommending it. And so
I
that's the only thing I do want to make clear.
Thank you. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I wish I could tell everyone listening that there's just one thing, one solution for anything, but there's just not. I mean, the first is going to be hats and clothing. I do like a little sun on the non-high real estate areas of the
Right.
areas that don't age as rapidly, like the back and the stomach and the areas that don't see a lot of sun. And I'm talking like 15 minutes twice a week, really enough to make vitamin D, get a little bit of like energy from the sun, not enough to ever burn. If you're burning or you're tanning, you're getting more than you can make vitamin D of. And then you need to check your vitamin D levels as far as supplementation. And then every single day, I recommend wearing sunscreen to the face, the neck, the chest, and then the back of the hands. Those areas see sun chronically, and the whole compound effect of hundreds of hours a year is just from incidental exposure, walking to the mailbox, walking the dog, driving in the car, and the sun coming through the windows. So all those things are necessary. And this is a beautiful like part of the recipe that needs to be done. It's not just the one solution, just like sunscreen isn't the one solution. So yes. Okay. We're good on that, right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about hair. So, hair loss is, I think, as we live longer, but also because of all the things in our diet, the herbicides and the pesticides and microplastics, or who knows, hair loss is really, I mean, it's shocking how much of an increase there is in it, especially in young people. And so, what I'm seeing a lot of is kind of the 20 to 30-year-old subset coming and experiencing a lot of hair loss, which I have to say I did not see 20 years ago. I think
That
that that is new.
I agree. That is new. I did not see that. I trained 2001 to 2004, and what I did see was a lot of hormonal acne back then. And I
Yes.
asked my program director, and he said, we didn't see that 20 years ago, right? So now we're even seeing more effects on hair and skin from our environment. Very, very
Yes.
interesting. Yeah, I did not see hair loss in that young. Do you think it's more telogen effluvium uh, from like stress or illnesses, or do you feel like it's more uh, androgenic from our hormonal disruptors, or both?
I mean, I think it's all on the rise. I wouldn't call it, I'm not seeing a whole lot more of acute telogen effluvium, but I don't even think we were talking about this chronic telogen effluvium, 20 years ago, where this chronic stress and, chronic cortisol increase is kind of signaling our body to stop our hair growth. And I think I'm seeing a lot more of that now in the younger population, and also a lot more hormonal hair loss in the older population. Like I feel like at the end of half of my patients with 40, half of my visits with 40-year-old women, they'll be like, oh, and also I have hair loss. And that was also something that, we used to kind of say that it was an afterthought, maybe for a handful of people, but I do feel like it's kind of coming to the forefront for a lot of these women now. And again, it's one of those things whenever you're dealing with chronic conditions, just like sun exposure, um, you might need medicine. But if we can do this with kind of a naturopathic bent where we can give people the right ingredients that we know are not going to cause side effects and help them, I think that, it's going to make people better without actually any side effects, which was the goal of creating the hair vitamin. And, we just did a study on the hair vitamin that showed that regardless of your reason for hair loss, when you take the hair vitamin, it improves any reason for hair loss because think of it as giving you all of the building blocks you need to grow hair. So whether or not you need minoxidil or Rogaine or, spironolactone or whatever it is that we're going to give you a cosmetic treatment, all comers benefit from the vitamin because they all now have the building blocks to grow hair from any therapy we give them.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point that's often overlooked is often we want to find the cause of the hair loss. And then if we address it, whether it's hormonal or there's entire books written on hair loss. Hair loss is very complicated for those of you who are listening, many causes. But at the end of the day, even when you address the cause, if you don't have the building blocks to create more hair by providing the nutrients, you're not going to build more hair. So like what ingredients are in the hair loss product?
Yeah, so we talk about this having all 21 ingredients you need for hair loss. So it has all of the vitamins and minerals that you need, and I should just mention here it has biotin, which is one of 21 ingredients, but it has it in a very normal amount because one of the things we're seeing in a lot of hair vitamins is people think, well, if a little bit of biotin is good, a lot is even better, and we're seeing 10,000% the recommended RDA and certain vitamins. That's scary if you have certain diseases like thyroid or if you have, heart disease. And so one of the things that I really do like to talk about with our vitamin is we've been very careful to keep everything at a very safe and healthy amount. Um, and then in addition to the vitamins and minerals, there's all these herbal ingredients that we know help. So for example, there's ashwagandha in it, which we know will turn down the cortisol in our body. And cortisol is, something that's released during times of stress. And what it does is one of the first things it does is if you're stressed, it will signal to the hair to stop growing because the last thing you want to do, if you look at it evolutionarily, is you're not trying to grow hair if you're running away from a bear. So one of the first things that cortisol does is it shuts down hair production. And so ashwagandha helps to control that when people have chronic stress. And then it has something called moringa leaf in it,
I
which
love moringa.
is, yeah, I love moringa. So it's the highest vegan source of iron. But in addition to that, we know that that is something that helps to thicken up hair in if someone has a hormonal type of hair loss, or even if you have diabetes or PCOS, it seems to increase hair loss. There's a lot of kind of ongoing research work on that right now. And so I really like the moringa. Saw palmetto, a lot of people have heard about for hormonal hair loss, and our dose is safe for women. And then there's turmeric in it also because turmeric is an anti-inflammatory. There's a little bit of selenium and some zinc, which helps to control kind of seborrhea or yeast overgrowth on the scalp, in addition to acting as a cofactor. And then there's copper, which people kind of forget that they need copper, but copper is what helps to prevent early graying of the hair. And one of the things that really happened that I saw a lot of in COVID was people were taking all kinds of zinc for, protection against COVID. And zinc will actually decrease your copper levels. So a lot of people came in and they thought it was stress that was causing early graying, but it was actually their intake of zinc when we measured.
That's
And
really
so it's
fascinating.
yeah, so it's got a very nice complete set. Kind of our tagline is everything you need and nothing you don't, because there is a lot of stuff that I think gets touted for hair loss that really doesn't have true science behind it. And so we've been very careful to only put in ingredients that are research proven. And there is collagen. I should mention marine collagen in it also.
I saw that. Yeah, that's an amazing. I'm going to try that. I'm going to start trying that. So in my family, we have a very strong family history of female pattern hair loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a sunburn on my scalp when I was 19. So I've always been
Um,
very fascinated by like, what can I do to help prevent having a bald head? Because I mean, my grandmother had it so bad she needed a wig. And I have
wow.
these memories of my dog running around the house, tearing up the wig. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never want to be that. So I've
You're like, that
always
can't be me.
yeah, I've always, between the low level light therapy, what can I do naturally? Like all these things we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And the science has come so far since just recommending high dose biotin 25 years ago and minoxidil, like now we have these beautiful formulations from nature. And I love
Yes.
that you know and you understand that like all the answers are in nature. Like nature gives it to us if we just
Yes.
learn to work with nature, right?
Right. No, I think that, we have to kind of pay attention to what our world has provided us already, right? And the thing I love about it is that when you take a supplement that is, well sourced, properly dosed, the side effect profile is, you can never say zero for anything, but it's almost zero, unlike when I give people medication. So, you know, it's a very easy thing to convince a patient to do. Because it is scary, like some of these other medications are.
It is, yeah. But I mean, that just goes to show you when things are in balance, our body takes them in very well, and does not react to it. So, okay, so I hope that some of you are watching this on YouTube because I love watching Dr. Galaria because her eyes light up when she talks about things. And I have this intuitive ability to be able to tell when somebody really loves something from their heart versus when they're just giving me a sales pitch, which is why I reached out to you. You didn't reach out to me. I
Oh,
reached out to you. I said, we need to share this with people. I want to do good things for the world and not, you're doing great things for the world. And if I could help in any way. So I know you have, like a discount code or something for people to try it. What's the best way for them to find you, for them to purchase it, I want them to follow you on Instagram or any other channels you have because you do provide really good educational material. So go ahead and share that, please.
thank you. So, we are going to, so I guess our website is www.innerglowvitamins.com. And you can go on there to purchase with Dr. Jen's code, which is just Dr. Jen, DRJEN. You will get 20% off of anything that you purchase, whether it's a single bottle that you want to try, or if you want to try a 3-month supply. It'll be good for both of those. And our Instagram handle is the same. It's Inner Glow Vitamins. And I would, love for anyone to follow on that. Where, I'm kind of dipping my feet into this podcast and real world. I'm not super comfortable in front of the camera, but I'm learning. And so, yes, we're providing more and more educational material on that
Thank
channel.
you. Yeah, no, you're great. I think it's hard sometimes when we're in academia and then we need to speak, English to people and make all the science we know in an easy to understand way. And I think you do that beautifully. So I'm so glad you took the time to come here today and share that knowledge with us. I'm fascinated. I'm so inspired by you and I'm definitely going to try the hair thing. And I just want everyone to know this is not an affiliate code. I'm not getting any kickbacks from this. I really just want you to try this. And she's offered the discount for you to give it a try.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying the Radiance Revealed podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, please give us a review, as that helps others to find this podcast. And if you want to connect with me, please visit my website, drjenhaley.com, or you can find me on Instagram at drjenhaley.
Hello, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility made for statements made by guests. Neither this podcast nor any of the information contained within it are a substitute for care by a qualified medical professional. This podcast is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you are looking for help in your journey, please seek out a qualified medical practitioner.